share screen, right?
Now you can.
All right. Did I share screen already?
No.
No. Let's try that one more time with.
Yeah, I just gave you
enthusiasm.
permission.
Here we go. All right.
There you go.
So we are going to get started here. Any introductions you want to make, Jeff? Anything you want to say before I jump in?
No, if you want to, some of the people I have met you before, but if you want to give a brief intro to what you're all about, that would be really good.
I will do it. I will do it.
And by the way, when Patrice tells you what she does, I just want everybody to know that I used her for a year and it really has helped me tremendously.
And we actually have a few fun things from Jeff as well today to share. So we're going to share it all out there. Well, not everything, only the good stuff. Jeff's session today is stopped by my office to discuss the fractional CFO business, and he's been doing a multi-part series. Today, we're going to talk specifically at the first part of this in about 30 minutes on how to get over the content hurdle. I know that a lot of people, especially as a finance person, content is not necessarily your strength. However, I'm going to give you some tips today that will help you get onto the content wagon in a much easier way. I'm going to totally shift your mindset about how you perceive content, especially creating it online. So as Jeff mentioned, I have a very eclectic background. I am a recovering engineer, started out in industrial engineering and a minor in mechanical. I've spent the last 10 plus, 15 plus years as an executive strategist, and at the core am a digital transformation leader, specializing in the industries of, or in the areas of MarTech, lead generation, and most recently talent development. Dealt with things like CRM implementations, ERP implementations, more than 25 of those, in fact, in manufacturing, software, financial services are kind of the key industries I typically work with. As a serial entrepreneur, I've launched several different endeavors and have successfully exited from 3 of those. Spend a lot of time helping companies and business leaders to develop out their teams, both nationally and internationally, and then speak about all the great lessons that I learned, as I'm going to be sharing with you today, on the area of digital talent retention and development most recently, and personal branding and how that applies for you as a finance executive who's stepping into that area of fractional CFO work. What does personal branding do for you? And that's been a lot of what Jeff's series has been about. On a personal note, this is where you'll find me. I tend to be out and about, whitewater rafting, skiing, backcountry, downhill, fly fishing, occasionally hot air ballooning, and hanging out with my cool sons as we travel around the globe together, like cool places like Lebanon and Croatia. So love to travel. I've been grown up in 7 different countries, so I kind of got bitten by that bug. Today, we are going to talk about what makes great content. I want to help you guys understand what the role is and what the differences are between articles, videos, posts, and polls. We will focus specifically on LinkedIn for the most part. Obviously, videos are not created nor stored on LinkedIn, but videos could become a really good part of what you might want to do. And I realize that's a big stretch for most guys and gals in finance, but we're going to give you some ideas nonetheless. And then at the end of it, we're going to talk about how to create content in just 15 minutes a week. I know you guys are thinking, no way, Patrice, not possible, but I'm going to show you how. So before we jump into all of that, I want to take 2 minutes and I'm going to have you guys go into the chat and put your name and then indicate if you have ever done a post, or you have done a post and an article in LinkedIn, or have you done a post, an article, and a poll. Any combination of that, put your name and which one of these 3 things, or none, if that could be an option, in the chat. And we're going to give you a moment to do that. Sometimes we do these as polls on Zoom, but today we're just going to use the chat. So I'm going to look in the chat. All right. So Ann has done polls, posts and articles, none, a few nones. All right. Jeff Smith's nones. Okay. So about half of you are none. And a few of you have done posts, that's good. And a very few have done some posts and articles, and nobody's done any polls. Okay, so we're going to talk about the fun things here and why this is important. Next up, I want to have you put into the chat again with your name. Well, I can see your name actually because it does show up with your deal. Your name does show up in the chat. But tell me top 1 to 3 challenges in creating a LinkedIn post. Like, what's the biggest hurdle for you? Is it the content? Is it images? Is it just carving the time out? What is your number 1 to top 3 maximum challenges of creating that LinkedIn post for those of you who have created it? If you've said none, you get to bypass the answer on this question because you, well, I guess you could put an answer in as to why you've never done a post. Would be good to know. All right, so we're getting some answers in on that. Don't know what to say. Yes. Making it interesting. Absolutely. And worrying about what my audience might think about my choice of posts. Yep, I hear that one a lot. That's a really great point. Making the time and figuring out the content. All right. So excellent. Which hashtags to use to drive engagement? I love it. Somebody brought that up. Well, Anna, of course, you would bring that up. She's like the star pupil in all this stuff, studying what to do and making it work for her stuff. Great points, guys and gals. So here is what makes great content. It's truly a lot simpler than what we might think. I think most of us being highly analytical, you guys being on the finance side, me being an engineer, I get the analytical mindset. We get stuck in our head about what should we say and what makes great content. So first of all, when you are thinking about making a post, I want to encourage you to put the picture of the face of one person that you would really enjoy talking to, that you want to talk to. So picture that person and the kind of things that you think they would be interested in. So what problem do they say that they have? And don't get trapped here to think about posting what you believe they want to hear. Don't do that. Just focus on what they say that they have a problem with. And we're going to do an example of this here in a moment. And I'm, as you will discover, very interactive in these sessions. So I'll just call on people. Don't worry. Everybody gets a chance to speak out. How do you uniquely solve their problem? So the first part of content is understanding your audience. So I'm going to just ask Melanie, can you picture somebody's face that you want to think about saying something to on LinkedIn? Can you picture somebody? Is that a yes or a no? Melanie
You gotta
Perez.
say which Melanie.
Melanie Perez. You'll have to unmute for a moment. You gotta click that unmute button. I know.
Sorry, sure, I can go that far and picture the face.
You can picture a face. And so tell us a little bit about the person that might be kind of a prospective person, a person that might be helpful, a person that you would be wanting to reach out to and talk to. Tell us a little bit about that person whose face you just pictured.
So I'm kind of picturing a few of my previous bosses in CEO, president positions, which is kind of going to be my target audience.
Excellent. So let's talk about one of those people as the CEO person. Tell us, what is he the CEO of? What industry?
He's in the food distribution industry, warehouse space as well, 3PL services.
Great. And what would you say is the problem that that CEO would say relative to the kind of things that you do? What would he say is one of the big problems that he has?
Business processes.
Business process. Can you be more specific?
Really, they had a lot of growth over the last year. They were actually one of the few companies that benefited in COVID. And we're not able to keep up with that growth in terms of hiring, training good people. So a lot of the knowledge has gotten lost a little bit, and processes are not followed as they were originally intended to be, and have to some degree been a little bit forgotten maybe, and need to be rediscovered, redefined.
Got it. And would you say that these processes that you would talk to him specifically about and what you would help him uniquely solve, would they be finance related processes?
Yes, but going a little bit beyond that. It's the business processes in general with all the data and flows that end up in accounting and finance somehow.
That end up in accounting and finance. Okay, so let's keep that person in mind. We're going to just use that as a case example. Very well done, Melanie. And you'll see the benefit of all of this as we go. So the next thing up is visuals. Content is not just the words. It is the imagery that helps to draw the eye to it oftentimes. And so the visuals you want to think about as much as possible, keeping them simple versus making something complex. You want to make them eye-catching, which means to say things with color contrast, things that have eyeballs in them. Literally, people relate to things with eyeballs better than not. And the visuals should be related to the topic that you're talking about. So keeping that in mind, because I know graphics, visuals is kind of a challenge. If you can find it related to the topic, you can go and search for some graphics online. There are plenty of free places to grab something to add to the content that you might create. And so the message, of course, is the third component here. Most importantly, it has to be relevant. So in Melanie's example, if we were going to create a message that was relevant for this CEO to see and engage with and get excited about, like responding to in some way, Melanie, what would you say is something that would be relevant? Any guesses?
SOPs, process improvements, anything in that space.
I would say even more refined than that will be better. Uniquely appealing to him. So you mentioned that one of his problems is going to be around growth and business processes that are impacting the financials of the company. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Right. So the more unique and focused you can make your message towards that one person, the better. So in this case, something about business process for high growth companies to solve their financial reporting, analysis, that kind of thing, would help him. Am I on target there? Understanding the issues?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. And then you want to have something that's an easy to grasp takeaway. So something that this person, when they see it, they go, oh, that's something I want to read about. And I can see clearly right from the start, it's something that I'm going to be able to go do something with, take it away immediately. I don't have to do a lot of effort to try to figure out a next step. So keeping all of that in mind, we're going to hang on to those thoughts. And we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between articles, how videos get used, posts and polls inside of LinkedIn. So this is an example of a post. And in here, you can see that this happens to be with a date on it and a time, hence an event. And we're talking about what is covered in here. Now, this is a fine enough post. However, it only got 74 impressions. Any guesses why it only got 74 impressions? All right, we're going to pick on Greg.
Pretty
Greg,
basic.
what do you think? Come unmuted and tell us, why would you guess I would only get 74 impressions? And I don't, while for some people that's perfectly fine. I will tell you that's on my world a little bit low.
All right, I think that maybe the subject matter isn't all that interesting.
Exactly. Essential personal branding assets. That's a real specific audience. And it's not that great of a topic necessarily. Like you guys ought to be interested in personal branding assets, but you really aren't sure what an asset is. Melanie, you want to chime in on this? What would you say? Melanie Kelly, brilliant at this marketing and marketing message stuff. What would you say as to like what's going on with the post or the graphics or anything?
Yeah, I think to me the copy is a little mismatched. Like the call to action is in the middle, kind of hidden, so you lose what you're supposed to do.
Excellent points. So calls to action really should be at the bottom, is the last thing, or the top, kind of the first thing or the last thing. And bolding that would also be advantageous. I would say it's also a little, I don't know, it's a little bit heavy. It's difficult to sort of navigate and at a glance figure out what is it that this is, what are we going to do with it, etc. So that is good ideas. Now this one, what do we think about that? Mike, if you saw this, how would you react? Mike T, touch. Mike, can you hit that unmute button? He's struggling to find it.
I jumped to the screen, sorry. What would I say? I would say this is more of a social post, general interest.
Right. And how would you feel?
So I'm looking at the graphic. And it's if I look at your copy there, let's see. It's something I'd expect to see primarily on Facebook, where I'm just looking at social things.
Interesting. Interesting.
So
So this speaks to an important aspect. This got 614 impressions. So a lot more people are interested in a tiny bit more personal stuff, even on LinkedIn. And that's kind of the point I want to get across is there's a variety of different types of content when you're thinking about what might I put out there as content. Don't disregard the impact of being a little bit vulnerable, sharing a bit of your story and sharing something, that's about you. That's not completely all businessy. So it is okay to do that under, the appropriate circumstances. Videos are another part of the whole content game. Oftentimes we can use an article and create a video from it. The way that we go about doing that is simply by, you can go reverse into creating it, but we'll talk about if you have a recording of your video. So you make a presentation, take an article, put it into some PowerPoint presentations, capture it right on Zoom, and then you do a voice to text transcription. So you don't have to go through and write out the article. It's a very inexpensive tool that's out on the market. There's multiples of them. If you want to know about it, reach out to me and I'll be happy to share that with you. But if you ever do presentations, especially like Jeff does on these, where he records the information, it can be easily created into a multi-part article, because in an hour, you're going to create like a 15-page document if you just were to transcribe an entire hour. And so that he would want to segment into, 3 or 4. Minor editing takes probably about an hour to edit it down. The beauty of videos is over time, your views start to go up. Because people keep coming back to it, especially if you put it out on something like YouTube. We store our videos on 2 different places, both Vimeo, because Vimeo is more secure, and YouTube owns your materials and will take it down at a moment's notice if they so desire. Vimeo is not so belligerent. But over time, like we started out with 6 views on this one, and then we went up to, I don't know, probably like 40 views on that one over time. And so videos have a wonderful sticky factor. You can also tell people how much people are, viewing things as well. This one is only a 1 minute video. So we can tell 72% of it got consumed, viewed, the duration of it. They watched all 72% of it. And so people generally prefer shorter 1 minute kind of things versus this type of a thing, which is more like a 45-minute. So the longer is useful for certain instances, but shorter is going to get you your bigger punch. This is a poll. Now, I want you to take note of the impressions on this poll. 907, same group of people off of my account, 1,300 eyeballs that look at this one. Now let's take a moment to figure out what's the difference between these 2 polls. So first off, this one is very short up here. This has a lot more words, and you have to click on the see more to see it. This is also in all caps, and it's very specific to whom it's directed. If you were interviewing, come here. And a very straightforward question: what makes a candidate most memorable during screening? And then here's our answers that we have from people. 55% say that they ask questions and that makes them memorable. So we get to learn things from polls. You get to learn from your target audience exactly what they think about certain things. And it helps you to prepare for and understand how to address your audience. So which team building activity would you choose? probably could have worded this a little more clearly and gotten more impressions, and also done something differently at the initial onset of the post that goes with the poll. Anybody else have any other insights or input to that? Let's see who have we had talked to.
Patrice, I actually have a question.
Yeah,
So you got almost 1,300 impressions. You got 31 votes.
yep.
Is that a good ratio or is that a bad ratio? People who actually took the time to actually vote.
The ratio is reasonable. It's normal. I'll say it's like an industry standard type of a thing. What we honestly, we care more about how many eyeballs are we reaching than how much engagement are we getting. Although engagement is a very good and important aspect, we're more concerned with getting in the case of if you're a fractional CFO and you want to be attracting opportunities to you, you want to be perceived as a thought leader. You want to be perceived as an expert and a professional. So you want to keep all of that in mind with your content and how you're creating it. But at the end of the day, when these people are clicking to see your stuff or being fed your stuff, you're getting an idea in a sense of how far your reach has gone. And the more you do polls, by the way, over time, this number keeps going up, almost regardless of the quality. Like if your quality stays flat and you're still talking to the same basic number of connections that you have, because you do polls, the search algorithm within LinkedIn will continue to boost you higher based on the fact that you had almost 1,000 impressions here. They start showing your stuff because it appears to be more relevant. They begin to show all of your stuff to more people, and you'll end up with more and more impressions over time. Here we got up to 2,000 impressions. And this was a simple question. Ever wonder what the most consumed beverage is? A lot of people could answer that one, and a lot of people could get engaged with that. What's interesting is tea is after water, tea is actually the most consumed beverage, and it's actually really close to water, but this is a global or international response, and this is a US centric response. So it's kind of entertaining about what happens here, but we did get 89 votes on this one, which in comparison to ratio wise, we definitely did a bit better there on engagement. So again, polls will drive engagement an order of magnitude more than just doing a post. Now, I know you guys, none of you have done a poll and you're like, oh my gosh, Patrice, what the heck is that? I'm going to show you exactly how to do them, and we're actually going to practice it together. You're going to submit a poll out today because it takes like 5 minutes, seriously. So I wanted to just explain the importance of the numbers, and we have connections, LinkedIn connections, counts. Now driving across a 5 or 6 month period from, adding in a 100 additional people, about 10 a month, means you have to do some outreach. Jeff can speak to and attest to this. He gets on a roller coaster ride of, oh my gosh, I have to reach out to all these people who are coming in new to me and engage with them in some way. Profile views, taking it from 247 steadily up to 291. And then, the profile is your profile itself, just looking at who you are. And then your posts is a different matter, going from an initial 50 up to 400. These are when you take a little bit of time to do this, not a lot, but consistent time month over month, this is what will happen for you. And then your search appearance, meaning how often are you showing up in searches? And you can, in a few months, double it. So other questions about any of this? Here we have examples of Jeff's stuff. One of the key things here, you'll notice differences in styles of writing, and this one got a lot higher impressions. I don't show the impressions on here, but this one definitely got a lot higher, like triple the amount of impressions on this one versus this one. And you can see likes are about equivalent. That one got a few more comments. This one got some more comments. Jeff has a nice consistent brand. He's putting out some articles and some posts and doing some things to create that. All right, moment of truth. Here we go. We're going to figure out about creating content in 15 minutes a week. I promised you I'd tell you how. One way is to do your own spin on an article. And your spin about that article should be why it matters to you and your alternative perspectives to it. So you can read an article. I'm sure all of you read lots of articles, especially like Harvard Business Review or financial information, and you have a lot more expertise than you realize that is valuable to the broader audience you're trying to reach out to. So if we go back to Melanie Perez's example of the CEO who's in that space, struggling with his company and the growth of it, and how am I going to get to the information that I need? If Melanie found an article that spoke to process improvements that lead to better financial reporting, that would be something she could write a small, maybe 150 word intro to it and say, I read this great article. There's a few key points that I think are excellent and several I disagree with, and put it in there to say, here's the alternative opinions to it. It doesn't take too long, but it gives you a little bit of food for thought to begin with, which is so much easier than a blank white page for you to begin with. Secondly, stop thinking about everything having to be about you and yourself, and think about a colleague that you could do a shout out for. Remember that the purpose of posting on LinkedIn is to connect with people, to reach out to people, to engage with them. You don't have to talk about yourself. And this is probably the biggest mind shift for most people that we find makes a big, big difference. If you're just talking about somebody else, for example, today we get to do a shout out for Jeff because we love what he's doing on these series. So we're all going to do one quick post and one quick poll about that because it's super easy. Another easy thing to do is reach out to new connections and start a conversation with them. So in LinkedIn, making sure that you always put in the initial, I'd like to connect with you because, I would value a conversation about this or that. And then actually engaging into the conversation with them, making sure that you check back once a day on LinkedIn. If you want to use LinkedIn, you have to be responsive. If you wait 3 or 4 days, people think you're not there and you're not relevant to them and you're not engaging with them. They get a weird feeling like this person doesn't really like me so much. So it is vital that you take 5 minutes a day to look at your LinkedIn and see, are there notifications in there, or set it to send you emails to prompt you to check back. Engagement in a prompt within 24 hours away will get you tenfold the results in terms of action out of engagement. Sharing a proud moment about a project, your company, if you're working on something with a department in your particular team, again, things don't always have to be about you, make them about others. And don't forget to be a little bit personal. Plans that you have in the future. Some people don't like to talk about future. So what did you do? Sharing out a fun little photo, college team event that you attended. So any questions on these pieces and how you might do this in 15 minutes? Rick, do you think you could do one of these ideas?
Yeah, I think I can, but I think my feeling right now is I'm a little bit shy about it.
And why? What's the shyness caused by? What's the
Reaching
shyness?
out to other people. I think often when I receive things from others, my perception is they're bothering me. So I don't want to bother people. That's probably the concern.
So tell me about how you receive things from others in LinkedIn.
Well, like the LinkedIn automatic stuff that you receive.
So in LinkedIn is either you are receiving a LinkedIn connection request, or you open LinkedIn and you see posts on your feed. Are the posts on the feed the thing that's irritating you?
No, it's just it's a constant issue of how much time do you have to spend on things in a day. And so I've treated these things as interruptions rather than as being something productive. But I appreciate what you're sharing, and it's going to prompt me to do something,
So keep in mind that that when you post on your feed, it is available for viewing, but it isn't pushing an email or a notification to the connections that you have. Like it's not terribly disruptive. It just appears in their feed, which is kind of the beauty of it. If they show up on LinkedIn, they will see it and they can respond or not, eyeballs on it, makes an impression. They can scroll right over it and do nothing if they choose. So I wouldn't, I want to make sure you understand the technology behind it, and when something is actually being pushed to somebody, that could be somewhat disruptive versus when it's just there for them to consume, a slight variation on the theme. If you were going to pick one of these type of posts to do, which would be the easiest for you?
I think sharing a link on an article and providing my own spin on why it matters, because I've done that many times.
Awesome.
Just through,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So Valerie, have you ever done anything where you've done a shout out about a colleague? Ms. Nielsen? Oh, she's on mute and she's not there. Jeff Kaufman, are you with us?
Oh, she says yes in the chat box.
Oh, she's on mute for a reason. All righty. So colleague shout outs is what we're going to do right now. And we're going to do this with two things. This is a shout out for Jeff to others about what he's up to. This is about today's, so we're going to do it in the past tense. So I'm going to go into the chat and I'm going to give you, for those of you, oops, I have to come out of the screen here, but just give me a second. We're going to give you content to post, so you don't even have to think about the words to write. We're also giving you the hashtags to include. We'll talk about hashtags in a moment. So I would like everyone to go into LinkedIn, and you're going to go to the top of your profile where it says create a post. And I'm going to drop into the chat your post content. All right, so hold on a second. Greg says he's very selective in making comments. Well, hopefully you won't mind making this comment, and feel free to edit this to your heart's delight. If you don't speak in this language, delighted to be part of Jeff Peterson's and the Financial Executives Networking Group, Inc. Don't worry about that. You can change the words to be more your particular style, but use this as your foundational text. And I'm going to also give you the link to go get a graphic to add to it. So you're going to do two parts in your post today. For those, oops, let me try that again.
So Patrice, for everybody, where is that section?
So let's, first off, in the chat is where you've got your great stuff. And I'm going to navigate my way back to my, all right, let's get onto the right one of these. I had LinkedIn up here just a moment ago, I promise. Chrome Mail out of the way. So, well, I'll just open up LinkedIn, and we don't need to see all that other stuff. Apparently I closed it. So in LinkedIn, you're going to go into your profile to start with. So I'm here in mine, and right at the top, it says start a post. So you click in here and it opens up the dialog box. And you're going to copy what's in the chat right into here. Well, not that one, but the first one. Obviously, the link to the image is not what you need first. So just grab the content out of there. And it just put that in there. Oh, shoot. I'm clicking around too many times. I'm going to try and take that out first. We want the words first. So you guys can put your version of the front end of this. And before you hit post, right down here in the bottom is add a photo. Now to add the photo, you're going to go back over to the chat. You're going to grab that link, click on the link. It's going to download the photo to your downloads. You can access them by going to your downloads, and you're going to share that back up into here. Whoops, let me close that a moment. I have two. I'm going to cancel that a moment. I'm going to select the image to share. After you download it, it'll show up here in your downloads, and I'm just going to click on it to add the image. You guys able to do that? So you have a post with some content and you got an image you're going to add, and I'm just going to say done. And now you can see there's the post with the content, the hashtags all done for you, and you can go ahead and click post. And voila, seconds. And now you guys have it out there. So you're doing a congratulations to Mr. Jeff. Another good thing to do on hashtags is, and/or inside of a post, is also to do, let's see if I can edit this post a moment, and I'm going to go back, and I forgot to do an important thing. Edit alt text. I don't really want to do the alt text. I just want to come up in here, and I'm going to do @Jeff Peterson and @Melanie. Melanie, do I have you in here? Melanie, remind me your last name again.
It's Kelly, but I use my middle name too. So if you do Melanie C. Kelly, it should come
I
up.
think you and I are connected. Melanie C. Kelly. You have to be connected to the person to get the @ to work. And I can't believe Melanie and I are not connected. That's really crazy. I can't find her though. So you can see that if you don't have the person already connected, you can't put them in there. The reason that you would want to do an @ to the person is to show them that you're, like in this case, I want Jeff to know that I am including him in here. And by the way, Jeff does, when you do an @ it does do what we were talking about earlier of actually sending him a notification to say, oh, you've been commented on and you've been added to a post in LinkedIn. So you can do an @ if you're on premium. You can do an @ if you're not on premium as well. Mark, what do you mean by that? The @ on premium.
I'm not connected to you, but I was able to do an @ to you.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean. Well, you are more clever than I am
Well,
because
I just discovered it because I was doing that as I was posting.
yeah, there you go. Because I actually have Sales Navigator, which is another
That's
step
the
above
premium, yes.
premium.
That allows me to do that. So you could do an @ to me, even though we're not connected. And that's a new discovery.
I'm going to have to go try that. Learn something new every day. So that's how you do the first part of this. Now we're going to go back in here and I'm going to share with you the next thing is to do a poll. Now, when you do your poll, we've got, whoops, gosh dang it. We have some sample text for you. Now, we were talking about Melanie's example, and I want you guys to think of your own sort of example that's going to be relevant. Don't overthink it, but you can create a poll in this way. So in this case, I'm guessing that something like this might be good. And I'm curious for you guys, maybe Melanie, you can tell me a better lead in to the poll that you would create specifically designed for that one CEO that you're thinking of. But of course, every other CEO that's in a high growth mode is going to have a similar kind of, interest and response to it. So I started with many business leaders use their P&L to determine the health of their company. Most find them ineffective. What financial report works best for you? And then I gave several examples. What do you guys think of that as a post? Would you respond to it? Would you put it out there? Pete, what would you do with that? Mr. Pete B. He's out there.
Can you hear
but he's
me?
not. Now we hear you. Would you post a poll like that?
Oh, I would never post a poll like that, no.
And why would you not post a poll like this, Pete?
It's just not my thing.
Not your thing. All right, Valerie.
I
what about
don't
you?
answer polls.
He has a little bit of paranoia about the whole posting thing. That's why I was picking on him. So Valerie Nielsen, what about you?
I'm not overall as in love with polls as maybe a year or so ago. I know LinkedIn isn't giving them as much love, but they can be a wonderful tool because to me, it's not about the number of people who see it, it's about those who vote. Because then they have interest, and that's just another way then to reach out and with a connection request saying, thank you for voting or whatever, and go that way. So
Exactly.
yeah, so that's why I don't do a lot of polls for a lot of the reasons the folks have just mentioned. Generally, the more senior business leader is, I find the less they are to engage because they don't want to be even just listed, even just for your eyes only, that they voted, unless it's something very general.
Yep. All excellent points. And so the pros of doing all of this fun stuff. So I'm going to put this into if you want to do a poll, I'm going to incorporate it into the chat. And can you see who votes on a poll? Let's go back. We can go back and look at that. I don't believe that you can see who actually votes on a poll, but let's go test that theory. See if I can find a recent poll
Well,
on
you as the creator knows who votes. The all of
the
LinkedIn, they
rest of
have
the
no
world
idea.
does not.
Yeah, but you as the creator knows. That's
That's
why
right.
I'm saying it can be a wonderful tool to find out things. I've seen someone who did that who was a piano or music teacher, and so the question was, do you have like a piano type of thing, or do you want to learn to play the piano? And that was a great way for that individual to gain information and do outreach based on that. So the answer is it depends.
Absolutely. And so brings us back to that whole audience and what is it that you're trying to do with your audience? What do you want to get out of it? No point in wasting any time doing a poll if it isn't going to give you the kind of thing that you're looking for. So if you're looking for information, like you are curious in the marketplace, do leaders in the finance world actually find their cash flow report to be useful? Or do they prefer their profit and loss or the ending balance of their checking account? And I can tell you, for a lot of small business owners, this is the way they roll, and it's a sad but true fact. And maybe it's all of the above. So that could be informational to you if you're not sure about what you think. This is a great way to just do a little discovery. It's not going to hurt your reputation if you put a poll out there. Will it get to the CEO of a $500,000 company or $500 million company? Probably not, because they aren't spending that much time on LinkedIn, but that's still okay because there's people that do report to them that will share out information and be a source of connection. So keep in mind what's your purpose on it. If you wish to do a poll, so to explain about the poll, let's just jump in there to make sure you know how to do it. When you do a post, you can come right down here to create a poll. And you put in the question like we had there, and then you put in the different options. And you can say how long is your duration, and then click done, and there you go, voila. So easy peasy to create a poll, lots of different ways to make those posts and create them in an effective manner. So wrapping up, so this just shows you that same thing. So wrapping up, what makes great content? First off, knowing your audience. Second, making it visually appealing. And third, crafting an intriguing and relevant message. So the point of it all is that it's more than just facts. So don't make your content so factual. Incorporate in a little bit of emotion to it. Visuals generally evoke emotions. Understanding your audience and speaking directly to them tends to bring out a little emotion in you. So between articles, videos, posts, and polls, articles show thought leadership. And so I forget who it was earlier who was saying, I would rather do that first. Great idea, because it really highlights your thought leadership. Videos get you the longer term traction. Videos hang out there and have a great sticky factor. Posts are good for quick personal brand building and engaging comments. And then polls, as we saw, get the most eyeballs and a high short-term impression attraction. When you do these, your posts and articles then start to get pushed out to more people by LinkedIn, because there is a search engine algorithm that determines relevancy of your content that is a function of impressions. So there is a digital technology and algorithm behind all of that. In creating content in 15 minutes, the most important steps for you to do is, first of all, allocate a consistent time on your calendar. If we schedule it in, we're much more likely to deliver. Pick the week's topic. And so that's why we gave you these 5 week 1 through 5 topics. And then if you're in doubt, talk about other people, and comment on, put elements out there that are around something else, so you don't have to start from scratch and you don't have to worry about it being too personal. Okay, I'm going to stop there and just ask, we're on the Q&A part here, questions. Any questions I can answer for you guys? If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can just raise your hand.
I would just say, as somebody who's probably shares some of the sentiments about not being really overly psyched to be self-promoting on LinkedIn all the time. There is a magic to it. I mean, I don't use it much, and I just prodding. I just looked at a post I just sent out a couple of weeks ago, basically looking for money for this fundraising thing I do every year, and I got like 80 something likes, 6 comments, and like 3,200 impressions. Now, I don't even know what that means, the impression part. Certainly, I don't think it overly translated to people donating to me, but I mean, does that mean somebody just glanced at it for a second or honed in for 10 seconds or, just clicked on it or?
So it isn't necessarily clicked, but it is eyeballs that did see it in their feed and spent some level of time on it. They LinkedIn doesn't tell you exactly the calculation of at what moment do they trigger it to say, oh, that was an impression versus, oh, that's not an impression. Like that's a little bit finely defined or not put out there for public consumption as to the specificity of it. But congratulations, it's great results that you got all
Just
around.
a follow-up, just as like the impressions, like 3,200, I think I have 12 or 1,300 connections. So
That's excellent.
what does that mean? Like that thing went way outside of my network to people. How did it get outside of my network?
Well, that's the whole point about polls and or that kind of a post that's a little bit more personal or a little bit more emotional and evocative. It's not all business. Different people in your network may have shared that out. And whenever they make a comment on it, it starts to pull it into their sphere of their community. And then the next person who makes an additional comment on that or views the comment, it starts to bring it out virally. So that's how and why. That's the importance of comments as well, is it starts to exponentially grow where you're at. Other questions, comments, thoughts? Jeff?
Yeah, so I have a couple of comments for everybody here. So, the idea isn't, and I'm getting this from some of the questions you guys asked, but the idea isn't to make yourself a viral social media follower, a leader type person. That's not the goal. That's not the mission here. The mission really is to, as we talked about before, build your brand. And the brand is if somebody wants to look you up, say Dave, somebody says, Dave got referred to me, or you're talking to somebody as a potential client, they're going to look you up on LinkedIn. And if you have interesting things that show that you're an interesting financial person and excited about what CFOs do on your, on your profile, your postings, that's going to play a big part in the way people are going to think about you and the way they're going to think about, what you can do and what you can deliver. The kind of the flip side of that is sometimes people connect with me and they have, 180 connections and nothing else. They don't have a picture. So what do you think about that person? You think, oh, geez, this person sits in their cubicle all day and, isn't part of the real world. And so that's one end of the spectrum. And the other end of the spectrum is somebody that, is posting all the time. But, and I also agree with comments on, you get these people. There's a guy I know that I think he posts every day. And it's all about him. And it's just, he shows up in my feed and it's like I can't get away from it, so you don't want to be that person either. But you do want to be seen as a thought leader in fractional CFO work.
Exactly. It's a balance and you got to think about that audience. And I love Jeff's perceptions on what do we think about a person who does these things. And that is, we do get judged on digital media just the same as in person. The way you look when you walk in the room, people judge, they're going to make a decision about you. So think about that in terms of what you want to be known for and known as. And going back to Melanie's example, she wants to be known as a finance leader who has a specific superpower in bringing business process and leading it into the financial reporting and the impacts. So she has, like, everybody here does something in finance, but I guarantee you that none of you are direct competitors with each other. Each of you have your own superpowers, and that's the cool thing. And it highlighting that the more you can through the stories that you're sharing, the ideas and concepts that you share, then people really understand, oh, I should go to this person for this kind of stuff. That's the goal of personal branding, that we're all trying to get that message across. And I know Melanie's going to jump in and talk a little bit more about all of that today as well. Any other questions I can answer for anybody? And I put my LinkedIn URL in there. If you need that in the chat, click on the 3 dots to the right of the happy face in the chat so you can save the chat off as you're getting all these comments. And I encourage everybody else to introduce yourself on the chat. Put your own LinkedIn profile in their URL so that other people can reach out and connect with you. Only if you want the connection, admittedly. If you don't want to talk to other people, don't put it out there.
Yeah, so there's another guy, just as another example, there's another guy in this group, Sean, I forgot his last name, but he's all about nonprofits. And like you get anything, every, I don't know, it's like every 2 or 3 weeks, something shows up in my feed from Sean, just talking about nonprofits. Sometimes he talks about a particular nonprofit he's working with. Sometimes he talks about, what he does for them, or, that sort of thing. And so it just keeps, every 2 or 3 weeks, I remember Sean and the fact that he does nonprofits. So someday if I find somebody that's looking for a nonprofit fractional CFO, I'm going to go get Sean and, connect them to those people. So again, just, you're not trying to be, a real high-end social media player. That's not the idea. And again, like I said, we all get turned off by those people that are just showing up all the time and bragging about themselves and all. So, I think Patrice did a nice job of kind of explaining not just the functionality of how to do it, but what you should be trying to portray. And we've been talking about that now through Melanie for a while here. So think of this as more of the execution side of what Melanie has been talking about. So we still have some. So any other thoughts on this? Because I'm going to change the subject a little bit. All right, thanks, Patrice. This was extremely helpful.
Glad you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't, so here's another thing I'll tell you. So, back before I met Patrice, I was making comments like a lot of people on here are making, and I was not a social media person, and I didn't want to go through that pain and agony of that learning curve. And Patrice came and she actually presented at one of the FANG meetings for the Denver chapter that I was running. And so, I looked her up and I talked to her and I said, maybe you can help me. And so she has programs, if you want to invest in yourself and you get real comfortable with it. And, it is a learning curve. I'll give you that. It took me a long time to, figure it all out and get where I wanted to be. But so she's a really big help in doing that. So again, if you're interested, it's well worth it, And look at what happened. She just got 21 people to post about me on LinkedIn. So I mean, the benefits are unbelievable. It just keeps coming.
We have fun with it.
Yeah. So anyway, so I want to switch gears. We have been talking about storytelling and sales. And so, what I'd like to do is kind of go around the screen here a little bit and have everybody tell us a story about a sales environment, opportunity, good thing, bad thing, doesn't matter. But the idea is to practice telling a story that's succinct, interesting, stays on track, which is, it's always hard to do, but it's something to learn. And then also, if you're telling it about a sales situation, we'll all learn something from you, because we get to hear how you either performed well with sales or maybe had a problem, wish you did something different. So we're all going to learn from something that you've done in the past. And if you're just starting off and you haven't done any sales, you've all interviewed, meaning selling yourself. And so you could talk about that if you don't have a sales situation. So I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner of my screen with Mark Blackton. He's always got something good to say. So
did you say Mike Gavigan, Jeffrey?
No, Mark Blackton.
Okay, very good.
Don't you know where you are on my screen? You're actually the third one over.
Very good.
You're next.
Yeah.
You're next. Well, my entire marketing effort is really just LinkedIn. 30 minutes a day. I've met everyone in my network. I'm not like everyone else, but I do have 800 people, all 800, but I've met all of them one-on-one or been in some kind of presentation to them. And my entire goal is just to go in, maybe share another article. Sometimes I'll do something original, but 90% of the time I'm just commenting on other people's, reposting other people's articles and commenting. And my whole goal is just to be top of mind in their feed a couple times a week. And then they remember what I do. And I have consistently generated 1 to 2 leads a month for years now. And that is all I do.
Okay.
And I close a good percentage of them. If I need, I don't need that many jobs. So I close all I need.
That's right. That's the best way to do it.
Jeff, my goal is working all those 10 to 15 hours a week. That's about all I can handle anymore at my age. So I'm good.
All right. So Mike Gavigan, if you want to tell us like a sales story,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, years ago, before I started my own practice, I worked in the sales department of a consumer packaged goods company. And I had been speaking, we were due to make a presentation to the 3rd largest retailer in the country at the time for our product. And I had spoken with the buyer quite a bit, and I probably knew what he wanted. And I prepared a very boring financial type presentation, simply showing them how they could make more money. And the person in charge of our marketing department, she was in the presentation. Our division head was in the presentation. And they said, what a mistake I had made. And at that time we were still using slides, Kodak slides. So we couldn't change the presentation. We were in Detroit, and we made the presentation, and actually the buyer ended up saying, this is exactly what I wanted you guys to show me. And, and signed up for our program right at that time. But, I guess the story, the lesson for me was, you need to really hold your ground, especially if the other people in the room, haven't been speaking to your contact or the customer. And that's something I really, really learned. Even when the shoe was on the other foot, I would sort of lead, let the sales guy who knew the customer tell us what we needed to be telling them.
All right.
And so that's my story.
Nice, good story. Thank you. So Jed, you're a B2B CFO. You have any interesting stories?
Yeah. So I go to a lot of networking groups, and I've been going to this one networking group. I actually started going to it about 4 or 5 years ago before I was a B2B CFO. Then I had a full-time CFO role, didn't go for a couple of years, and then started going back again. and you give your 30-second intro, and I'd always give my 30-second intro, and I'm, you know, I'm a finance guy like many of you, so I kind of cut to the chase and get to the point. It's not a lot of flowery words. So I thought in my 30 seconds, people really understood what I did. Never really had a lot of questions. Nobody, and then they asked me to be one of the key speakers. There's 2 key speakers that speak for 6 minutes at one of the meetings. I of course did not want to do it. I didn't want to stand up there for 6 minutes, but I agreed to do it. So I said I need to. So I started writing out the first time. So I started writing out, practicing. The first time, I think it took me 2.5 minutes. I was like, oh, great. You know, I got to stretch out 3.5 more minutes of material here. So I kept working on. So I got to 6 minutes. So then I spoke, and after the meeting, I had quite a few people that came up to me and said, you know, I've been coming here for a long time. I never really understood what you did until that talk. And so I guess the moral is you don't really know, you know, in 30 seconds if you're really conveying what it is that you do. And it's very difficult to convey what we do in 30 seconds.
All right, thank you. Valerie. I'm sure you have some good ones.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think it's just very challenging, quite honestly. Because I think you have to realize there's just a lot of passive aggressive behavior out there. And so that's what you have to, I think, rise above in the sales situation. And I do think there's a difference between being a female out there doing that versus a male out there. You can pretend it isn't, but it does make a difference.
Interesting. So how do you overcome it?
Just have to ignore those who are doing the passive aggressive, because people don't want to, I say be honest, but they don't want to say like, whatever that truth is. And so they just don't respond. They should just say, oh, well, no, I'm not interested now, or whatever. It's just very amazing what you see out there. And it's not that it's coming from women. I see it from a lot of men. And I think it's because overall, people may not be as confident in what they know. And so sometimes when people come across their desk that could help, they're unsure of doing that because they don't want to look bad to those in their organization. So I think there's some very interesting things. Now, it also just means you have to work really hard to find people that find you particularly interesting and have confidence that you can address their problem. And so that I think is the key. It's not about you, it's all about them.
Yeah, there, that's good. Rick, you got any stories?
Yes, I do. You know, nearly all the work I've done has been, my career has been, you know, as a salaried person with organizations. So it's only recently that I've gotten into the fractional CFO, and it's working, but all the business that's come to me is by, you know, word of mouth contacts, people who already know me and know what I do. But there still has to be a sales pitch, because you need to find out what it is they need. I've been fortunate in working with principal developer owners in the real estate development business, but you still got to find out what their wants and needs are, and then figure out how you can fit into that. You know, basically my pitch is, before I make a pitch, I thought it through in advance. You know, you got to know what you're going to say before you say it. And then that old technique in public speaking where you say the same thing 3 times because people aren't listening, you know. So I will say, well, here's what I'm going to tell you about. And then I tell them about it, and then I review what we went over. And that seems to work. But I think the thing that I learned the most in this new fractional CFO business is you have to ask for the business. You know, you have to make it clear what you're asking for, what it's going to cost them, what the deliverables are going to be, maybe give them some examples. And then, you know, get an agreement in front of them as quickly as you can with them. I always ask for an upfront payment, you know, so that it's kind of like a retainer. Anyways, so that's my sales story. Is I've done that now with 4 different clients since I first met Jeff just a few months ago. It's kind of working so far. I mean, the best thing I can tell you is you tell them what you're gonna do, and then you gotta do it. You gotta, because they always remember what you shared with them when they first met you. You know, that first impression is pretty important. And
Yeah.
so that's my story. I mean, I could go into more detail, but you guys could probably already imagine.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's one thing I found doing a fractional CFO, because now you're CFO for multiple companies. I actually have them quite often say to me, you're one of the few people I've ever met that does what you say you're going to do. And that you build a reputation on that very quickly. So that's a really good one. So how about if we hear from the two Melanies? So Melanie Kelly is actually a very experienced salesperson. So we'll let her give us a few talks.
I was going to, I have two examples, but the latter one that I was thinking, I think actually ties what Valerie was saying and Patrice's presentation. And it's about being in front of the right people. So one of the first sales that I did when I got into solar was way too easy. The person just agreed it was this new product, like new to the nation product, new to our company product. We were an 8-people startup, and it was a really it still is a complicated concept of community solar. And the person called and they wanted to sign up, and they drove to our office, and she paid me in cash, like the whole 20-year contract in cash up front. And we were like, wow, like that was great. But then she didn't understand it. So it was like months of her calling me and me re-explaining the thing, to the point where I ended up voiding her contract and giving her back her money, because she didn't understand what she had signed up for. And then we ended up writing that into the sales pitch, where if somebody was really eager, we ended up like going through like, hey, we just want to make sure you know what you're signing up for. These are the terms, before we let them sign a contract. And she wasn't the right buyer, that person. And so if you're doing what Patrice was saying, where you're building this personal brand and writing this content that really gets to the people that you want to be in front of, then you start to attract more people that can use your services. So you're really like filling your own funnel. And Valerie said it was, you had to find the people that find you. And I think that's the way to do it, is to really hone who you want to work with and then message to them. So that's one of the lessons that I had, but I think it ties your stories together.
Nice.
Well, I gotta say, first of all, cash, that just sends little alarm bells off in my head. Being a recovering banker, someone's paying you in cash. There's some other issues happening. Holy smoke.
Exactly. Yep. All right. So I'm going to go with Melanie Perez and then Maiken, and we'll probably have time for one more. If somebody raises their hand and wants to go, we'll pick them. So Melanie, you got any thoughts?
I don't really have any sales experience. In my last interview for a CFO role, I actually, the biggest concern of the CEO was, well, they did a personality test and the sales function kind of scored 0 for me. So that was the only concern they had to hiring me. But I guess I did a good job talking myself out of that and marketing myself anyway, because I did end up getting the job.
All right, way to go. See, overcoming the issues. So Maiken, you got anything to share with us? You got to take it off mute. Can you do that?
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, sure. Yes, good afternoon. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm on my phone. I'm a CFO on the go, but I specialize in real estate. I learned a long time ago that we have one product to sell, and that's us. So I've always branded myself as a CFO on the go when I left my last full-time job. And I was always networked into clients through referrals. It's all about, knowing what you can do and finding people that need what you need, what they need, and try and match up. And if you get the right referral, most people don't even question your ability. They just figure if you got referred by someone that they're going to trust you. But the sales, I go to a lot of different networking groups. It's all about having the one-on-ones. I've grown my LinkedIn connections from 2,000 before the pandemic to over 5,600 now. I don't do a lot of
Oh.
posting on LinkedIn, but I do a lot of just acknowledging acknowledging posts. But I don't do a lot of my own posting. But it's
Well,
all about.
I'll tell you what, I'll make a
like I
deal
said-
with you. I'll make some posts for you with my name on them and you put them on your feed
Oh,
with your
all right.
5,600 connections.
all right, we can work something out. Anyhow, it's like I say, I'm, I've, once you've been out there for long enough, like I say, it's all about, you can't be shy about asking. You got to ask for what you want and you
Yeah.
got to deliver. And as long as you deliver, you're going to get the next client because someone else is going to say, this guy's the best thing since sliced bread.
There you go. Okay, is anybody, so we have 2 minutes. Anybody want to share? Okay, I'm going to pick on one more person. How about Jeff Smith? Because he's got the best name on the screen here.
Yeah, there's only a couple of us out there. So I would say, I mean, this is a lot of good stuff here. I'm kind of newer to this, fractional CFO stuff. And recently I spoke at a kind of a networking thing where there's just introductions and stuff. And it was funny after the fact. All I did was just basically tell a story. And I found that to be the way to connect, is not really try to sell anybody so much as just tell a little story. And it really resonated. And the lady that actually hosted it, she came up to me a couple days later. I saw her. She said, you were the head of the party. You got more business cards and requests than anybody. And I'm like, I did get a client out of it. And I had, a few meetings that came out of it. So I was really impressed with that. I'm sure that might just be good beginner's luck, maybe. I don't know. But I think, I don't know. I mean, I know how I like to be sold to. I don't like the hard sell. I like trying to just, it's about relationships and things like that. And the LinkedIn thing, which I have not done a lot with, honestly, it's interesting to see that. And one of the things that, I don't kind of like with LinkedIn sometimes is if you do get a fresh connection, they immediately and I know it's automated, the email that you get, like, hey, I want to talk now, rather than let's warm up a minute, so
I agree.
I don't know. That's just kind of my food for thought.
No, that's a good one. Yeah, I agree with that. It's seems to be more and more prevalent that people are connecting with me, want to sell me something,
Right.
more and more, faster and faster.
Yep.
Okay, gotta go. All right, everybody. See you later.
Have a good day.
Oh, I'm gonna move it to a Tuesday. Something happened. I can't do it on Thursdays anymore. So we're gonna move it to Tuesday, but I'll let you know. Okay.
What time? What time on Tuesday?
Same time.
Oh, okay.
It'll be the
Thank you.
It'll be the third Tuesday.
Okay,
everybody.
thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Patrice.
Jeff and
great.
Patrice. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.